was in this chair. I think this chair. I almost always sit in this chair. Is this chair better? This chair feels better. I might switch chairs to make sure that I get the same chair. Hold on, let me see here. You know what? It was this chair. Whoa, this is a little better. It was in this chair a year ago, right about now, that I said, I get the whole idea of Saquon Barkley. I like Saquon Barkley. I like Saquon Barkley a lot. I think he's a good dude. I think he's got like the most ridiculous leg strength and power I've ever seen. It's a 3-down running back. This is not an anti-Saquon Barkley remark. But what are you doing? Like, if you're the Giants, you need a quarterback. How badly did you need a quarterback? Your head coach, your general manager, and your owner all agreed that we need to work Davis Webb in at some point before the year is up. Right? That actually happened. They even got to play Davis Webb because there was such pushback from fans. Right? All it took was your backup quarterback to start one game and ruin the streak of Eli Manning. And New York collectively lost their mind. But you had a brain trust that had been around the organization like, all right, it's time to figure out the next step. And it was a quarterback-heavy draft. And oh, yeah, by the way, right before the draft, the Jets, remember, moved mountains so they could select a quarterback, but they didn't even trade to that spot. They trade to the spot behind you. And you overvalued the running back position instead of the quarterback position. Remember? And we can also remember that Cleveland Browns took Baker Mayfield, who was not number one on everybody's board. And once they did, that left Sam Darnold, who was number one on most everybody else's board, available for you. You could have, in one move, gotten your heir apparent at quarterback and put the Jets in the unenviable position of taking probably their third choice at quarterback after moving mountains to move up to that third selection spot. We told you at the time that running back was a mistake over quarterback. And then later on in the summer, I told you there's no reason to give Odell Beckham Jr. a new contract because just about this time last year in this very chair, we reacted to the video of OBJ in a hotel room with an unnamed female accompaniment and an unknown, but we think we know what that white powder was. And at the time, the owner said, look, this stuff has to stop. We got to consider all possible options. Right? This did happen. And so my point was not to get rid of Odell Beckham Jr. It was, hey, if he says he's a changed man, let's see him be a changed man. There's no force. There's no forcing you just because he was incredibly productive when he was on the football field. No forcing you to pay the man. So they didn't make one. They made two mistakes. They drafted a running back instead of a quarterback in a quarterback-heavy draft where they could have had the number one quarterback prospect in the draft, the heir apparent, a position that they needed. And then they doubled down on that mistake by putting a bunch of money into Odell Beckham Jr. after 3 months of good behavior. And guess what? He was a turd. He just was. You can tell me all you want about, look, all he was saying is what everybody else is saying. And all he said was that they need to practice harder. Like, hey, dude, here's how it should have sounded. I need to play better. I need to play harder. I need to make more plays. If I'm going to be the best wide receiver in the league, it's on me. I need to get in there earlier. I need to get with Eli Manning. I need to get with our head coach, who's also our play caller, and I need to figure out how we can collectively get better. That's on me. But instead, it was, those guys don't practice hard. We don't have a good culture. Eli's been part of the problem. He did the kid thing. He did it. He did it. He did it. He did it. The adult thing is, I did it. And if you don't believe that both of those decisions by Dave Gettleman were a mistake, What are they doing now? Get rid of Odell Beckham Jr. 7 months after they sign a new deal, and they're going to draft Dwayne Haskins as their quarterback, who I think Dwayne Haskins is really good. But you got to rebuild that line because he's not particularly mobile, and I don't believe he's nearly the prospect of Sam Darnold. I just don't. And you could have started that process of rebuilding at the quarterback position a year earlier, and you could have gotten plenty of running backs in the draft last year or drafts this year or traded for them. They're not crazy valuable. No matter how good Saquon Barkley is, and he's really, really good. How much better did you get because of Saquon Barkley? And why on earth did you feel compelled to pay Odell Beckham Jr. before he showed you that he was a changed man when adversity hit? And I'll never understand, players will sit there and say, and former players on TV will say, well, players, they can determine their own fate. They can. Once they become free agents. But I'll never understand why so many teams pay players before they have to. Unless it's at a hometown discount, bargain rate. I got you on the cheap because I signed you early. Guy coming off injury. Keenan Allen makes $9 million for the Chargers. But by the way, I would also point this out. I heard Clay Travis earlier today. I was driving, and he said, "Oh, the Browns have the best wide receiving tandem in the National Football League." Like, no, they don't. Mike Williams and Keenan Allen and Hunter Henry, those three are better than what the Browns have. Proven to be better. Throw in Travis Benjamin as well. Like, that's a better trio. In terms of electricity, like you can't match Odell Beckham Jr. He's electric. But I'll take and he's had injuries. Keenan Allen's had injuries. I'll take Keenan Allen 6 days a week and twice on Sunday. And oh yeah, by the way, Chargers a better running back too, with 2 running backs. But they also couldn't overcome the Patriots, who are a better overall football team. So I think the Browns experiment is going to be interesting. I get why they did it. Like, I understand it. I don't think it's idiocy for John Dorsey to go out and, hey, let's just go get some let's just go get some dudes. And Baker Mayfield's a guy who does well in a room of alphas. I actually also told you last year that one of the things a scout told me was, hey, Baker Mayfield can be really good, but you got to have really good players around him because he's not crazy talented. He's crazy smart, crazy confident, but not crazy talented, not crazy big. Don't believe me? Look at the numbers for Baker Mayfield this year against the good teams they played. Here's the 5 best defenses they played. The Ravens twice, Chargers, Steelers, Texans, Broncos. 6 games. Baker Mayfield, 10 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, 57% completion percentage, record of 2-4. Now, we should point out that this was a team that didn't win a game the year before, and that they were far more competitive, and they had far more confidence, and they're going to be better with a better wide receiver in Odell Beckham Jr. There's no question about that. But the assumption was that Baker Mayfield took the league by storm, and the reality is he wasn't a particularly good quarterback against the good teams. They were playing a last-place schedule last year, which they will not get the benefit of this year. So I love the idea of, hey, put guys around him. You put dudes around Baker, they like playing for him, and they can hide some of his deficiencies. But there are deficiencies there. And those are not guys that handle the 11 interceptions all that well. They're finger pointers. But the New York Giants had a chance to start the process of building for the next wave, getting their quarterback of the future, and instead they overinvested in a running back and then overinvested in a wide receiver. And if you don't think both those decisions were a mistake, look at the moves they have made since, and they're going to make in the draft. And I don't hate saying I told you so. Because anytime I say something and I get it wrong, you say I told you so. So in this particular case, I told you so.